A prison hospital bed, somewhere in New Zealand. A man lies connected to a dialysis machine. Every second day, the machine does what his kidneys no longer can. His leg is gone, part of it amputated while he was inside. His heart is failing. The man in that bed once controlled one of the most feared criminal organizations in New Zealand history. He had connections to triad networks in Asia. He ran methamphetamine operations at industrial scale. He helped build an organization so deeply embedded in New Zealand's criminal landscape that serious murder cases reportedly collapsed because witnesses were too afraid to testify. Hundreds of people answered to him. For decades, nobody touched him. And now he is lying in a prison hospital bed, waiting for a machine to keep him alive until tomorrow. The New Zealand Parole Board will eventually decide he no longer poses a danger to the public. Not because the system beat him, because his own body did. His name was William Bird Hines, and the way New Zealand sent him off, after he finally died, forced a government to change the law. If this is the kind of investigation you come here for, a subscribe means we can keep doing it. This one took time to get right. Now, let's go back to the beginning. To understand William Bird Hines, you need to understand what the headhunters actually were. Not a street gang, not a collection of blokes in patches throwing punches outside pubs. A corporation. During the 1990s, the headhunters became one of the first gangs in New Zealand to formally register as an incorporated society. They established front companies, gyms, tattoo parlors, charitable trusts, all of it designed to conceal the flow of illicit funds and launder money with increasing sophistication. Under the direction of its senior leaders, the gang developed transnational connections with triad organizations in Asia. Drug precursors smuggled through New Zealand's seaports, the headhunters operating as wholesalers, pressuring smaller gangs to distribute their product and surrender a percentage of the profits back up the chain. And what made all of it possible, what made the headhunters genuinely terrifying in a way that most criminal organizations never achieve, was not just violence. It was what happened to people who talked. Serious murder cases reportedly collapsed after witnesses suddenly changed their statements because they feared for their lives. Members suspected of betrayal risked disappearing without a trace. The public record does not name them because nobody came forward to name them. Within that structure, William Bird Hines was one of its chief architects. Long hair, glasses, a face that gave nothing away. Cold, expressionless. The kind of face that does not need to threaten, because the room already knows. For years, Hines was linked to numerous illegal operations, while somehow managing to keep his own hands apparently clean. That is not luck. That is the architecture of organized crime operating exactly as designed. Layers of distance between the man at the top and the specific act at the bottom. Layers of people who will take the weight before it reaches him. Layers of silence maintained by fear and by loyalty that fear had made indistinguishable from genuine devotion. He was known within New Zealand's underworld as an OG, an original gangster, a founding figure, a man whose tenure inside the headhunters spanned the organization's entire evolution from Glen Innes street gang to criminal corporation. For decades, the system could not reach him. Later in 2015, New Zealand's organised crime investigators begin Operation Sylvester. The principal target, William Bird Hines. By this point, Hines is not moving product himself. He is the architect, the man who structures the operation from above, who designs the machine without touching the components directly. That distinction matters legally, and it is the reason it took investigators years to build a case that would hold. In 2017, the case holds. Hines is convicted. The charges include his role running a major methamphetamine manufacturing and supply operation alongside charges involving military-style firearms. The sentence, more than 18 years, reduced to 17 on appeal. He is 64 years old at sentencing. Do the arithmetic. 17 years from 64. He would be 81 before ordinary parole. The door locks, and for the first time in his life, William Bird Hines has no architecture to hide behind. Inside prison,
His body begins failing in ways no sentence was designed to address. Type 2 diabetes, severe enough that doctors are forced to amputate part of his leg, inside a prison medical ward. The man who had spent decades as one of the most physically imposing figures in New Zealand's criminal landscape, losing a limb in a hospital bed. Heart disease follows, then end-stage renal failure. His kidneys stop functioning. His life is now dependent on dialysis every second day, a machine keeping him alive between one morning and the next. The man who once controlled transnational drug networks and had connections stretching to Asia now cannot survive without a machine deciding whether he wakes up tomorrow. A previous parole board decision records something that does not appear in any of the crime reports or the conviction coverage. Hines tells the board he wants to make peace with his whānau, as a consequence of his offending history on them, not on victims, not on communities, on them, the people who lived alongside what he was for decades. By late 2022, the parole board makes its decision. He is no longer capable of posing any danger to the public. Doctors believe he has very little time remaining. He is released on compassionate grounds. He goes home. He receives care from his family. He lives on dialysis every second day. A leg gone, a heart failing. Shortly before his 71st birthday, he walks out of prison for the last time. On Wednesday, November 22nd, 2023, he dies at 71. His body is taken to lie in state at the Headhunters East Pad at Marua Road, Ellerslie. For days, headhunters and members of other gangs converge to pay their respects. On Saturday, 25th November, the van carrying his casket leaves Marua Road. Behind it, more than 100 riders. Headhunters, greasy dogs, nomads, Hoo-Hoo MC. 500 kilometers south along State Highway 1. Before the procession even leaves Auckland, police convene a high-level meeting. Fears the convoy could cause major disruption on the motorways. More than 100 officers deployed. The Eagle helicopter assigned for the full journey. Traffic management in place along the route. State Highway 1 briefly blocked as the procession moves through towns. Smoke from a bike burnout visible through the crowds. At Matuiti Marae at Himatangi, more than 1,000 people. Headhunters, nomads, black power, mongrel mob, killer bees, greasy dogs. Enemies in patches standing beside each other to bury one man. He is buried alongside other members of his family at the Urupa of Motuiti Marae, the marae where the Hines family is from. The place he came from before any of it started. He left Foxton as a young man. He came back to Foxton in a casket. Everything that happened in between is what 1,000 people came to witness the end of.
In the weeks after the Tangi, new Police Minister Mark Mitchell reinforces his vow to crack down on gangs. Specifically in response to what the Hines funeral had made visible, the government moves to restrict large-scale gang funeral processions. The specific imagery, more than 100 patched members from rival gangs on State Highway 1, together, in patches, for a man released from a 17-year sentence on compassionate grounds, requires a legislative response. In January 2026, Mossy Hines, William's son, dies aged 49, also a Headhunters member. His body makes the same 530-kilometer journey south, to be buried beside his father at Motuiti Marae. Police prepare again. Same route, same marae, same family, the second generation beside the first.
Here is what the story of William Byrd Hines actually shows. A person can rise to the top of the criminal underworld. They can control an organization with hundreds of members. They can build transnational connections, launder money through incorporated societies, and inspire the kind of fear that makes murder witnesses change their testimony before they reach the stand. They can keep their hands apparently clean for decades. They can outlast investigation after investigation. And eventually, after all of that, the thing that finally reaches them is not a rival's bullet, not a police raid, not a jury verdict. It is a dialysis machine. and a leg that had to come off in a prison hospital ward. The final freedom Hines received did not come from his brothers breaking him out. It did not come from money, of which there was plenty. It came from the compassion of the very justice system he spent most of his life opposing. A parole board deciding that a man too sick to survive without a machine every second day was no longer a danger to the public. That is what power looks like at the end. Not a shootout, not a dramatic arrest, a bed, a machine, and the decision made by people in suits about whether you are still worth keeping inside. There is no glamour in that. There is no victory in that. There is only what William Byrd Hines had spent 71 years building, and what it ultimately could not protect him from. Time, his own body, and the quiet arithmetic of consequence. What do you reckon? Is there any version of that life that ends differently?